What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're last week's album, The Only Reviews with Two Different Views. And this week we're talking about American Man by the Yawpers. And we're asking the big question, should the Yawpers' sophomore effort, American Man, be required listening for every American man? Before we go any further, we're going to start things off like we always do, drinking a beer. Cheers, Kevin, everyone at home.
Cheers, Derek, and everyone watching at home.
All right, so the Yawpers are a Boulder, Colorado-based trio, and longtime listeners of the show may remember that we caught them at South by Southwest 2015. Kevin caught a drumstick. We really liked them. They are one of our favorite bands, so we're really excited to talk about their new album. Sorry to get off on a tangent, more background. This projects initially started out as a subdued acoustic side project, but built momentum as they played some shows in the rougher clubs in the Colorado music scene, which really kind of helped meld their sound. Their debut release was Captain Crusade back in 2012. And two other interesting items to note. I'm going to give you one. The band's name was derived from a line in Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. And Kevin thought it was very interesting who produced this album.
Yeah, it was produced by Cracker co-founder Johnny Hickman. So imagine that.
Go figure. All right, so that's some background. Now we're going to talk about what it sounds like. Kevin, what did you think?
I think this record sounds like Bruce Springsteen, Steve Earle, AC/DC, and the White Stripes going on a cross-country road trip. What do you think, Derek?
Dude, I totally picked up on the Springsteen earlier. It didn't make it to my sounds like, but I think American Man sounds like some Ryan Adams, some Ryan Bingham, an Axl Rose-less Guns N' Roses sprinkled in with some Allman Brothers. So this is eclectic, to say the least. Let's go into some details with some key tracks. Kevin, what did you have?
I've got Deacon, Brodie, and The Desert. What about you?
I've got Doing It Right and 3 a.m. So I'll kick us off with the opening track, Doing It Right. This one opens with a strummed acoustic guitar riff and lead vocals. I thought the strummed acoustic guitar here was just restrained, waiting to erupt into some raucousness later, which it does. Percussion picks up, eventually erupting into an explosion of sound. There's churning, distorted slide guitar, bass snare drum beat, near screaming vocals. And one thing that I really thought was cool was a blazing dual guitar solo, which started around the 3-minute mark. And the lyrics I thought kind of described how most difficult challenges provide us with the most in return. Two lines that really, I thought, sum this up. One, he says, searching isn't life, and it comes at a cost. A second one, the meanest, hardest struggle is doing it right. So, hard times, they might come, they might go, but you know what? You're going to get something out of it, and that's the only way to do it right. So, Kevin, why don't you tell us about Deacon Brodie?
Sure. This track is a fast-paced racer. There's mean slide guitar, barreling drums, juxtaposed against these drawn-out gospel-style vocals singing about a devout deacon who can't deny carnal temptation. And it's just a really lively track from an interesting point of view. I say it's somewhere between Nirvana meets Ryan Bingham, if you can imagine that. Really fun track.
Nice. Well, 3 a.m., this is kind of the opposite. I thought this was one of the more slower paced ones on the album, and this one clocks in at 6 minutes, 17 seconds, so easily one of the longer tracks here. But this one features kind of a lazy, distorted slide guitar at the beginning, but then quickly is joined by blasting bass snare drum. Verses feature sparser instrumentation, lighter drums, some guitar flourishes, heavily reliant on lead vocals, but then it really grows. This one's really a slow builder. And around the 3:30 mark, the guitars really open up, cascading cymbals and faint, haunting vocal ahs, which I thought kind of created a hillbilly Pixies sound. Again, try to imagine that. The lyrics here, I thought, or I interpreted them as describing how relationships often end because of arguments at this time of night, be it friendships, with a lover. Also touches on the apparent coldness of society. And I'm going to save that one for best lyric because I really like that one. So, Kevin, why don't you tell us about The Desert?
Sure. This is the album closer. It's the last track on the record. It's bluesy, psychedelic rock, essentially. There's revving guitars, booming drums, raspy vocals with these psychedelic backing harmonies, and dystopian lyrics, sort of looking into a bleak future, but over this propelling arrangement that really just can't be stopped. It's like AC/DC on high octane, if they could be on any higher octane than they already are. So yeah, great closer of a track.
I didn't know normal AC/DC was on a lower octane to begin with.
Right? Exactly.
All right. So that brings us to best lyric. Kevin, what stuck out to you?
I'm going with one from the song Faith and Good Judgment, where he sings, "Sometimes I wonder what I'm hoping to find. I'm walking the line between what I want and what's rightfully mine." The album for me had this really apparent central theme of searching for oneself in these modern times. And so I thought that line right there summed it up rather well. What about you, Derek?
Awesome. I think mine fits into that theme very much. So maybe not where, finding oneself, but maybe finding oneself in the greater context of overall society, which we all know is a lost cause. Why try to search for that, really? But he says, I kind of alluded to this earlier, in a world of dull reflections, where the wounded walk on ice, where the care of perfect strangers is as strange as paradise. And really just those last two lines really stuck out to me. Where the care of perfect strangers is as strange as paradise. Just using jumping from the word strangers to strange, and just the way he turns that around was fantastic. And I think it echoes that theme overall that we're kind of hinting at. And I have a premonition that we're going to talk about that a little bit more here when we talk about overall rating and answering the big question: should the opera sophomore effort American Man be required listening for every American man? Kevin, you want to start us off?
Sure, I will. I will start with the question. I think, yes, it should be required listening. It's a very American sound. They mix folk and rock and punk and blues. And even if you're not an American, you should probably listen. They're well-versed and they're nimble in the subtle nuances of American music across the board. So very apropos title. Overall rating, I think they do a lot with a little. Acoustic guitars and drums, and they come out with these barreling, loud, charging sounds. And then sometimes they go the opposite direction, do more acoustic style things, but they do it all really well. It's very punk rock meets folk roots, and great lyrics, smart observations, interesting questions, empathetic character studies, really good stuff. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. What about you, Derek?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to start with the big question. Should this be required listening for every American man? I say yes, and dare I say should be extended to every American woman as well. Hell, everyone should listen to this album. We're not exclusive here at last week's album. On the pro side, totally agree with you. Really unique sound. Obviously, acoustic guitar bass, but they use a lot of distortion and other effects. I really like the slide technique that was utilized throughout. Really create a very interesting sound, very American sound. I totally think you're spot on there, Kevin. I think this hard charging sound paired very well with the lyrical and vocal intensity. I think you're totally spot on. The lyrics were very strong, but the vocal delivery I thought was exceptional as well. At times near screaming, but never over, not just screaming. You know what I'm saying? Cons, I really couldn't find anything negative to say about this. Again, we've Kevin and I've been looking forward to this album since we talked to these guys after their show at South by Southwest. They're at a small place off Rainy Street. So, if anything, I will say this lived up to the expectation that had been building in my head for the past 7 months. So that being said, I'm giving this one a 4. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to hearing more from the Yawpers. So that is a combined 8 out of 10 from Kevin and I. So if you're a red-blooded American of any gender, hell, if you're a red-blooded anything, you need to go check out American Man by the Yawpers. Thanks again for joining us here at last week's album. The only reviews with 2 different views. Shout out to the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll check y'all out again. Next time we're talking about more good music. And as always, I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
Cheers, guys.